Tocqueville repeatedly emphasizes the importance of associations among citizens, lest they become so enamored with their political leaders that they return to the sense of worshiping the monarch, which is definitely what we see when we look at the political climate in the United States today. So I'm going to read the end sentence of one of his chapters as the beginning of this conversation. In order that men remain civilized or become so, the art of associating must be developed and perfected among them in the same ratio as equality of conditions increases. Because, he says in another part of the book, it is true that courtiers in America do not say sire or your majesty, a great and capital difference, but they speak constantly of the natural enlightenment of their master. For example, Trump or even Harris. Harris was an absolute insult to us women because she couldn't even say one paragraph articulately, and yet people worshipped her as if she was some enlightened creature. There was nothing enlightened about her. And the same is now happening under Trump. People are worshipping Trump as if there are no flaws that we can talk about. They do not hold a competition on the question of knowing which one of the virtues of the prince most merits being admired, for they are sure that he possesses all virtues, or she possesses all virtues, just on account of her skin color and being a female, in a time when we don't even want to talk about gender differences. Without having acquired them, and so to speak, without wanting to do so. They do not give him their wives and their daughters, so that he may deign to elevate them to the rank of his mistresses, but in sacrificing their opinions to him, they prostitute themselves. Okay? The Americans aren't lining up to give Trump their wives or daughters, but in sacrificing their opinions to him, and not just to Trump, to Biden, to Harris, and all the ones that came before, apparently, because Tocqueville wrote this 200 years ago, they prostitute themselves. It is quite shameful the way Americans worship not just politicians, also celebrities. For what? And why do they do this? And he goes on to say, we know that we are speaking to a people too much above human weaknesses not to remain always master of itself. We would not use language like this if we did not address men whose virtues and enlightenment rendered them alone among all others worthy of remaining free. How could the flatterers of Louis XIV do better? Really, the way Americans treat their celebrities and political leaders, even though we have no real deep respect for politicians, is just shameful. As for me, I believe that in all governments, whatever they may be, baseness will attach itself to force and flattery to power. And I know only one means of preventing men from being degraded. It is to grant no one, along with omnipotence, the sovereign power to demean them. Americans really must stop worshiping these masters. And what we have instead done, so we have politicians, we have celebrities, but we've also started worshiping anyone with money. Because in America, because self-interest is such an important thing, anyone who has taken self-interest to the point where they have immense wealth is considered successful. In America, forget virtue, forget depth. As long as you have money, you've made it. This is not so in every part of the world. You think that that's the absolute final measure of a man, but it isn't. And again, when you compare to Switzerland, Switzerland doesn't make much of its politicians. Politicians are sort of a militia, in a sense. They have normal jobs on the side, and they are serving their population. We also don't allow much celebrity worship. I mean, there's a lot who try to make money off of celebrities now in Europe in the same way that it's been able to be done here in the United States, but the culture is one that actually whacks down those who want to make a celebrity about themselves, and that's super important for a democracy to maintain itself. So what is the answer? What does create a healthy interaction between humans, and how do we keep from worshiping politicians? Well, the answer is in associations. The morality and intelligence of a democratic people would risk no fewer dangers than its business and its industry if the government came to take the place of associations everywhere. So that's negatively said. So in other words, associations are the only way to push back the power of government, and instead of worshiping government, we should see it as a service. Sentiments and ideas renew themselves if the heart is enlarged, and the human mind is developed only by the reciprocal action of men upon one another. I have shown that this action is almost non-existent in a democratic country. It is therefore necessary to create it artificially there. And this is what associations alone can do. So, Americans have actually had a history of associations. They have a club for this and a club for that and a club for that. But these have lost their hold on people because people come and go. There's such tremendous mobility in America that you stay in one place maybe 3 years, maybe 7 years at most, you move on. And you have so many fun associations that you don't feel this accountability to this association. And now, of course, we're in a time of digital communities, especially here in America. And digital communities are only as strong as someone participating according to the rules of that group. The moment that you differ in opinion, you just unfollow or they block you. In fact, I have a friend, really a friend, who I disagree with politically. And she posts things and I'll say, I think that's a little bit too extreme how you express this. Or why is this a good thing? She posted students walking out of a commencement speech because the commencement speaker was a Republican governor. And I said, okay, but why is this a good thing? And she wrote back, maybe you want to unfollow me. And I said, Sarah, of course I don't want to unfollow you. This is the whole point. Those students should actually listen to the Republican governor instead of walking out. Walking out does not make for a healthier society. Why not listen and then ask in a way to debate or to maybe be the commencement speaker in a few years and present other ideas? Why does it have to be that we just block and walk away from these associations? So I think this is the danger of America. On one hand, we worship politicians, celebrities, and those who make money, and we are no longer attached to the former associations that kept America actually in balance. And now with digital communities, we need to be very careful that we don't abandon one another and hide ourselves in ever more specific rooms where it's all lined with mirrors and we only hear and see ourselves, because that is the most dangerous thing to a democracy, as Tocqueville warned about 200 years ago.